I like that story about the monkey who tried the hot springs first. And I wanted to talk about her because I don't know any Japanese monkeys, really, but I know the monkeys in my life. I know South Carolina monkeys, and I know some Texas monkeys. And I want to tell you the rest of the story, because the newspaper article just says, and the rest of the monkeys copied her. And I know how it happened. Here's how it happened. When she first dove into that bubbling, steaming water, the hot water, after those soybeans, everybody was just horrified and kept their fingers crossed for her and hoped that she wouldn't get boiled or steamed or somehow disappear from their lives. And then the smoke cleared, the steam cleared, and they caught a glimpse of her just lolling around in there, popping soybeans into her mouth. At which point, if they were like the monkeys in my family, they treated it as if she were making kind of a social gaffe, which means that you turn your back and you kind of ignore, you pretend it's not happening. Like if somebody painted their dining room lavender or became an artist or something. So they just kept conversing among themselves and kind of ignored what she was doing. And then, second or third time she did it, they started gently joshing her about it, just for her own good, to let her know what was expected by the family. And that is that she would get out of that water and back in the snow where she belonged with the other snow monkeys. And they were like, come on, we're not called water monkeys, we're called snow monkeys. And, gently joshing her. When that didn't work, when the third or fourth time she had her whole family in there, her maid, her children, they were grilling brats and drinking Lone Star in the water. Somebody got mad and started muttering. And they were like, snow monkeys. If you're in the water, it's kind of unpatriotic, don't you think? I just think it's sissy. I think it's sissified behavior. Well, I think all that moist heat on those children is going to make them sick. It's not going to make them sick. It's going to make them grow up aggressive. They're going to be aggressive. I think they're going to hell. I think just a whole bunch of them are going to hell. Trying to destroy snow monkey-ness. Little by little, it happens. It's how it happens. It's a slippery slope. Soon we'll just all be in the water all the time. And by the end of it, when everybody was happily going in and out of the water, just as if it were a natural part of their lives, they were all like, oh, yeah, I was thinking about doing that before I'm not going in there because she did it. I was thinking about that the whole time. In fact, I told you, didn't I, that it would be a good idea if we went in there. That's how it happened. Trying something new it takes courage. And it's not always a choice. Sometimes it takes desperation. You think everything's going all right in your life, and pretty soon things start to fall apart. You've got it down, the things you're doing, those things are working, and then you lose your job, or somebody leaves you, or you get a bad diagnosis, or just your shoes start feeling too tight, and you just feel, or they feel itchy, like you got to go somewhere, or something becomes uncomfortable. And Ralph Waldo Emerson called it divine discontent, although he hated being quoted so much. He hated quotations. Maybe he wouldn't have hated himself being quoted. He hated other people quoting other people. So it's kind of ironic to quote Emerson, but he called it divine discontent. And it feels uncomfortable, and you don't know what's next. And it's a little scary, and I know that feeling, and I wrote a song about it, and I'm going to play it for you now. I got to tell you something important you need to know. You're gonna be fine. They said the walls were there for protection, and that used to be true. It's time to break through. Butterfly, you can try your bright wings. Let your colors fly. A chrysalis really is a fine thing, till it's time to take the sky. It feels like it's all falling apart, but what's happening is unfurling. Where will you migrate? How will you get there when it's time to go? You'll know. Butterfly, you can try your bright wings. Let your colors fly. A chrysalis really is a fine thing, till it's time to take the sky. I'm wishing you honey, wishing you sunlight, a little rain. Not too much pain. And in the end your body may break, but your spirit's due. To surprise you. Butterfly, you can try your bright wings. Let your colors fly. A chrysalis really is a fine thing, till it's time to take the sky. Butterfly, fly, fly. Butterfly, fly. Y'all are sweet. Thank you. So there's no denying that a chrysalis can feel like a really safe place. It feels like the walls are there for protection. You're just in there, you're playing your favorite little video game, you're binging on a show that you haven't seen before. It's restful. You have it all together. But gradually, the music in your head starts getting a little repetitive, or you start getting a little cramped. You feel like, I've done this for long enough. I need something else. I'm longing for something that I don't know the name of. Or maybe you do know the name of it. Or I've got to get to some place I've never been before, and I'm homesick for it, but I don't know where it is. Or I've got to get to some place I do know the name of. I know exactly where I should go. And you start moving around and pushing the boundaries a little bit, and sometimes your craving, your hunger just gets so great that you start chewing your way out of the chrysalis. And I don't know, but I think, even though we're all about transformation, I think there is a certain element of panic in transformation. And I think suddenly the caterpillar is like, everything's falling apart. Everything's crumbling all around me. I'm about to lose everything. And, it is. It's going to lose everything of caterpillarness. But it's going into another thing but doesn't know that yet. And suddenly there are these wings, and they're all like awkward, and what are these things for? And I'm not sure how to use these, and now I just feel like sitting on a flower like this. And oh my goodness, they move. What in the world? Help, I'm in the air. What's that all about? I think the same thing about little rosebuds, and they think they're so together, and they're like, I'm so cute, I'm a little rosebud. And suddenly the petals start going like this, and they're like, help me! Ah, my petals are separated. But really, they're just blossoming. But they don't know. How do they know? How do you know what transformation is going to become? It's not comfortable. It probably doesn't feel safe. That divine discontent drives you, and you do sometimes lose everything you had before. And so it takes sometimes a tremendous hunger or a tremendous thirst or tremendous desperation to take that plunge. It takes some courage and some confidence and desperation. Those of us who were not born into Unitarian Universalism, we have a story to tell about how we got here, and desperation is often part of it. Suddenly, the garments of faith that we were wearing just unravel and fall apart, and they're just in pieces around our feet, and we have to make something else out of them, and it doesn't look like what it was before. And all the other monkeys in our lives are like, I hope you're going through a phase. Is this because your Uncle Norm was mean to you? Or they'll gently josh us, you going to that hippie church again? How's that hippie church? And sometimes they just like to fight about it, and sometimes we like to fight too, and sometimes it can be great sport, fighting theologically with your family, but a lot of times it's just a pain, or just pain. And so our transformation is not always comfortable. But as the great poet from New Jersey, Bruce Springsteen, said, everybody's got a hungry heart. You get a hungry heart sometimes, and you just got to do something about it, don't you? You can't just sit there and let your hungry heart eat itself alive and disappear. Some people do, but there certainly are like the walking wounded in our midst. You have to get the nourishment that your soul needs. And so one of the things I want to tell you today is that I think you guys deserve a celebration for being willing to jump in and be the first one to try being a sanctuary church since the 1980s sanctuary movement. This is the first church in Texas that had a refugee here in sanctuary living amongst us. And part of the reason why you could do that is because you felt confident about your mission. We say it every Sunday, and it truly does guide us. In the board meeting where we were having the talk about whether to take this leap or not, the thing that cinched it was, this is our mission. If we don't do our mission, what do we say it for? And having that guidance was crucial, and also having the confidence of feeling like we're in a good place. We're in an exciting place. We're in a place where we can afford to make a mistake. Because if you don't feel safe, you're not going to take any risks. But once you feel like you've got your feet under you and like you're going in a good direction, you can afford to make a mistake. Now, this is big for those of us who are firstborn people, because making mistakes feels like death to us. But once you're in a pretty good place, you can try something. And you can say, well, if this doesn't work out, if I get into the hot tub and it's just too darn hot, I'm going to just leap out and say, woo, that was a mistake. And it's okay for us to not do something perfectly. This is another thing about being the first one to try. We were the first one to try in this decade being a sanctuary church, and we did not know what we were doing. Sulma can attest to that. We were learning as we go, which is not the way I like to do things. I like to have all the information ahead of time, and I like to feel absolutely confident that I know exactly every step, but we didn't do it that way because we were the first one to try. So you have to either be desperate, which we were desperately hungry for justice, and we were desperately hungry to help, and we were confident enough to dive in. And because of you, all of those things were true. It's because of you all that everybody in the leadership was confident enough to say, okay, if we make a big mistake, we will survive it and move on. And so I want to say kudos to you. And I want to say kudos especially to our social action folks and to the other two ministers on this team, Marty and Chris, who worked so hard on all of this while I was just gone having a good time. We are justifiably proud of ourselves, and on Tuesday, a bunch of us went down with Sulma and accompanied her to the immigration office where she got papers signed that gave her temporary freedom to be here and to keep working on her visa. Are there any people who were there with us today who could stand up so we can see you all and give you a hand? Yeah. It was a beautiful sight. It was a beautiful sight, and the cameras of the TV station saw that sight of all of us, and the people at the immigration office saw the sight, and things worked out well that day. And I'm proud of us. I'm proud of our allies. That's another reason why we could do it. St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church came right to our side. And that minister, Jim Rigby, and his folks came right to our side and said, we want to help you and be sanctuary with you. And they were, and that helped a lot. And all the coalition of Sulma's allies and friends helped a lot, too. We wouldn't have, we were not running the campaign, they were. We were just standing to the side and being allies and doing what they asked of us. And all of it was such a wonderful experience. And I'm so proud of you all. So we have this church that not only is able to declare, you know what, a loving God doesn't send anybody to hell, which is such a lovely thing to be able to declare. A loving God, doesn't burn his children. In our country, even this hell-bound, sinful country, I'm going to imitate my Uncle Henry for a minute. Even this hell-bound, sinful country has enough morality to know. I miss Uncle Henry. To know that if you burn your children, you go to jail. So why would we worship a God who does that? I don't know. And yeah, so